good peoples. Hey, y'all. Welcome to another episode of the Convicted to Grow podcast. I'm your girl, Coach Tressa, motivational speaker, confidence, and business coach. My goal is not only to help you build confidence and strategy when it comes to life and business, but to bring people from all walks of life to share their growth journey and how they got to where they are today. Now, before I introduce my next guest, if you are on the audio side, please hop over to the YouTube channel and follow the Convicted to Grow channel. If you would like to be a supporter of this show, you can go to convictedtogrowpodcast.com. Just know your likes, your comments, and your shares are priceless to me, and I thank you for supporting me in this first year journey of podcasting. So now, y'all, my next guest. He is a Detroit native, an acclaimed author, award-winning coach, renowned for his unique fusion of faith, leadership, and business expertise. With a passion for empowering individuals to conquer life's hurdles, his corporate success is attributed to creating high-performing teams and inspiring cultures. In addition to hosting the engaging Instagram live show, Get Over the Hump, which is phenomenal, by the way, he leads, and I hope I'm saying this right, V-Ros.
Get enough.
He's going to show me how to pronounce it, but it's a community, y'all, committed to living and leaving a dream. He resides in the Nashville, Tennessee area with his beautiful wife, Ebonique, and I hope I said that right too.
You nailed that. You nailed that one.
Hey, and his quote is, "Just because you're getting better doesn't mean you wasn't already good." That part. So y'all, help me welcome none other than dope brother that's killing the game right now, Aaron Victor.
Come on, let's talk about it. You didn't come in here with all this energy. I'm trying to keep myself together. Listen, hold on. Listen, I don't know what they were talking about, but you know something, I'm going to choose to believe it was me today. Listen,
y'all know these last couple guests I've been bringing on been coming with energy. Listen, y'all, we come, and I said to him, we're going by the spirit today.
Yes, we are. Yes,
so,
we are.
And you know what, Aaron? So, y'all, first of all, I always tell you guys how I met every guest, because it's always some type of, whether it's on the Instagram streets, thread streets, or community. I actually met Aaron. Well, I knew of him. I take that back. He was one of the coaches and leaders over there, and he still is in the Deeper Than the Brand community. Shout out to Nikki Saunders over there. And I joined that community. I think it was in the first cohort, the I2M. I think it was like a 10-week live workshop, y'all. It was so amazing. I'm trying to get Nikki to bring that back again, but I know she's crazy busy too. So anyway, I remember he would help, and then on Wednesdays, Get Over the Hump. And I'm like, this man be on early, but the fact that you're still doing it, that speaks volume of your consistency, because you were doing it during the pandemic too.
Yeah. Here's what I think people want to make, and they'll see you, Coach Tressa. And let me say this first. Thank you for having me on. It is an absolute honor that you would think that I could give some value on your platform to your people. So I don't want to miss that. That's very kind of you. So we're going to have some fun. But I think the thing that people miss about how can I be successful? And I'm sure you see that in the people that you talk to, is they want this 1, 2, 3, 4. They want this magic elixir, add this and stir, and ooh, voila, it pops out. One of the simplest, most anticlimactic things you can tell somebody to be successful is to be consistent. Oh, they be so mad when you tell them be consistent. Oh, they be so frustrated. Like, what do you mean? I mean, I am consistent. I'm like, yeah, you're consistently inconsistent. That's why you got the results that you got. And you over here talking to me, trying to sell me on why you doing what you think you're doing, but your results don't say that. But, you know, let me not come out so hot. But yeah.
For the people who've been rocking with me since we started this podcast in February, I told y'all to get a Convicted to Grow notebook, because you just never know what guest is going to drop gems. So I got a feeling, I'm going to tell you right now, bring out your notebook, your notepad, whatever you need to do, because this man's going to come with some gems. I mean, he ain't even said who he is, his background a little bit, already dropping some gems. So, yeah, consistency. And y'all, look, if that's true, because here's the thing, I am your by the time we drop you next week, episode 43, I've dropped an episode every week since February.
Come on. Okay.
And I came with episode 6 trying to get you on. You looking at me like, well, Tressa, what's the benefit of me?
So let's talk about this consistency though. Let's talk about this consistency. That's funny. So let's talk about this, right? So if we go back to, in the intro, you talked about I moved to, I live in Nashville now, but if you I'm Detroit till I die. 313. I'm so happy my Lions are winning. Praise God. Y'all keep praying for us. We want to be at least somebody get to the promised land. We ain't got to take everything to the promised land, but it'd be nice to get to the Super Bowl. Anyway, I digress. But when I moved down to Nashville, the pandemic happens. And so I'm coming out of a space where I was leading praise and worship in my church. I was the youth leader, minister at my church. And now all of a sudden I'm trying to get my feet underneath me, figure out the new spots. And then the world shuts down. So now I'm trying to figure out, how do I find my voice? Like, what do I do now? Because all I've known as a kid is just go to church, and sometimes I felt like, I actually talk about it in my book. I felt like we were in church 8 days a week, and like we was doing an 11-hour shift for Jesus on Sundays. Like, I'm a straight up church kid. But during that time, I remember hopping on when nobody knew who I was. I didn't know Nikki. I didn't know E.T. Like, there was no I2M. Like, nobody knew who I was. And God says, you need to jump on this online platform. Now, at the time, I was only on Instagram and Facebook because I needed to know what the teenagers at my church was doing. So I was like, I can't lead a group of young people if I don't know what they actually are navigating. That was the only thing I was doing. And he's like, nope, you need to do it. And so from 2021 till about the end of 2022, I used to drop every week this thing called a moment in time. And a moment in time then turned into a moment of clarity. So then it started to be happening twice a week. So I had to get comfortable talking to a screen, looking through the barrel of a camera where there's no audience. Because as a preacher, especially in the Black space, I need you to say amen. I need you to say thank you, Jesus. Take your time. I need you to give me all that encouragement. But when you looking at this camera and ain't nobody in here, you have to be just as engaged and start getting those reps in. And so you talk about every week that you dropped this since February. I know what that's like. Some people watching, sometimes they not watching. Sometimes you got a lot of views, sometimes you don't have no views. But God said, you keep going. The consistency that you're building and the things that you're doing is going to pay off. And I can tell you that time in the shadows that I was building stuff and I was doing stuff that didn't nobody know who I was. They're like, how are you so easily able to do this? It's because I was putting in reps in the gym when nobody around.
See, this is what I'm saying. I told people I'm getting booked for speaking engagements just because of my social media. Because even when I'm just talking to myself and doing a 1 minute motivational minute, it's a rep. I ain't got to wait for it. I'm putting it in now. Obedience births favor.
Don't despise small beginnings. And many of us are frustrated because we don't have the guarantee on how it's going to pay off, as opposed to starting the process knowing it's going to pay off. And if many of us are waiting to see how it's going to pay off, you'll never get started. And the only way you see how it pays off is being able to get into the process. And that's a fruit of being faithful in the process. It's knowing how it's going to pay off.
Yes, I love it. I love it. So kind of tell people a little bit. I know I gave you your bio, but so you say you in the church speaking, yes, and then you praise and worship. You singing too?
Yes, ma'am. I do that. I do that too. Yeah. As my brother and sister say, man, you was in every line when God was giving stuff out. He gave you height. He's like, you're a pretty decent looking dude. You sing, you can speak. He's like, you didn't miss no lines. He's like, some of us missed a couple of lines. So as I've gotten older and feel more secure in it, yes, the Lord has kind of gifted me to be a Swiss Army knife. It's a little weird.
Yes. Okay. Well, let's kind of give a little bit of the background of how you got to where you are today before we talk about this amazing book.
Yeah. Yeah. So again, as I said, Detroit till I die. Those who have my personal cell phone number, it is 313. You're going to see it. You're going to know it's me, because that's where I got my roots from. It's the edge in which we navigate through. It's the thing that people understand when they see it, Detroit versus everybody. It's just a way in which we just live and we navigate. We had the riots in 1967 in which the white flight happened. I'm born about 10 years after that. We had a really militant mayor and Coleman A. Young Then we're the birthplace, people who watch the Stars TV show, BMF with Big Meech and his brother Southwest T. Like, everybody understands there's a lot of energy that comes out of Detroit. We're known for the Motown music era with the Diana Rosses, the Smokey Robinsons, and, you know, the Temptations, you know, Michael Jackson and Jackson 5. Like, we're known for all of that. And so kind of coming up in that space, you really get a chance to kind of figure some stuff out. So I'm the oldest of three, and it's already dropped on you to be responsible. Like, you're kind of the third parent. You're kind of the one that they tell them, hey, make sure don't nobody get in trouble. And if they do, you in trouble. So you kind of navigate through that. I grew up in the 80s and the 90s in Detroit where, you know, the crack epidemic starts. My mom's a probation officer, so she's really extra hard on us, not even just the strictness of holiness and the Pentecostal way that we grew up in church, but she's like, I'm sitting in front of these men and they look like these can be my sons. So like, we grew up really strict. We weren't cool at all. You know, I'm also on top of that, I'm growing super fast. Like, you can't tell by looking at me right now, but I'm 6'8", you know, so I'm huge. Like I'll give an example and we'll keep going. When I graduated from middle school in the 8th grade at 13, I was 6'3". From middle school to high school over the summer, I grew 2 more inches. I was 6'5". Just to give you an
sports. Did you play sports?
I did. So most people assume I played basketball. Well, up until I was 14, I primarily played baseball. I actually hated basketball because everybody told me I had to play. And that's kind of what's in my spirit. You know, if you tell me something just to kind of go with the flow, I'm going to go against it just because I'm figured, why not be different? And as you kind of go from school, then I got a scholarship to play basketball at Oregon State first. I think it was the first time at Oregon State is where I saw my faith and my life really collide, because there was a woman who was on the women's basketball team that was probably the coolest person on campus, but she was unapologetically Jesus, unapologetically. Like, and everybody respected her, everybody loved her, and I was like, I ain't never seen that, because in Detroit, you getting clowned for being a church kid. In Detroit, you getting clowned for not, you know, being around, but you in church all day on Sunday. But she was the first one, and I saw that, and that's when I really started walking out of those shadows. I call it the shadows of shame, to really start seeing some things in a different kind of light and perspective. But what happens in that space is then I had to transfer because the coaches that recruited me got fired. So now, instead of saying, hey, this is just business, this is how sports goes, I took with me the burden of rejection. And now you take the burden of rejection with you to another university, and you can't actually even pay attention when I transferred to Valpo, how that was a much better situation to really be a catapult and a launching pad to other things that I would do in my life. And so, you know, I talk about some of this stuff in the book, but I'll speed ahead. And there was a moment where I made a decision after my first job out of college that I felt like they wasn't treating me right. And instead of losing my Jesus, I said, well, I'm going to go be an entrepreneur. You know, I was like, let me not go postal on these people. Let me go be an entrepreneur. It was one of the craziest, at times, dumbest things that when I think about it, because I was not prepared. It was a reaction as opposed to a response to an offense. And what I would say to people, when you're offended, be careful, because when you're offended, your ego automatically shows up and it will blind you on what you need to do next. If I had to go back and talk to that dude, Aaron, I would tell him, hey, man, what you see is true. Now let's plan your exit. Because when you plan your exit, you get the opportunity to do what the children of Israel happened when Moses finally got Pharaoh to let them go. It says when they came out with jewels and cattle and horses. They came out with everything. So they didn't come out of their bondage empty-handed. But when you react, you'll actually leave what you were meant to take with you behind.
Yeah, because a lot of people will quit because they're reactive and not proactive. So yeah. So speaking of the entrepreneur journey, because you know you're a speaker, you're a coach. When was that shift and pivot when you started going that route? Like, what has been the challenges, overcoming anything you would like to share to our entrepreneurs out there?
Yeah. So one of the things I learned in that first kind of foray going out as an entrepreneur was you got to really have a plan. And let me say this to my personality types that like to be free. And I wake up and I just take the day as it goes. And, oh, this is wonderful. This is beautiful. I get all that. But that does not make a successful entrepreneur. That actually doesn't make a successful employee. Let's keep it a stack. Let's just keep it a real stack. That actually doesn't make you actually successful in anything. And what people miss is that actually having a plan and being consistent and having discipline actually gives you more of the freedom to do what you want to be able to do. It's not clipping your wings, it's giving your wings an opportunity to fly. So the first thing I would tell somebody, you got to have a plan. And I would say you need to have your first 90-day plan. You need to have your first 6 months plan, have your 12-month plan, and then start looking those things out. Because as you begin to reverse engineer from 2 years out, 3 years out, now you'll get a chance to understand, what do I need to be doing on a daily basis to make sure things happen? When people get frustrated at being an employee, it's usually because somebody's telling them what to do. But here's the thing. Some of y'all need somebody to tell you what to do. I'm just going to be honest. Some of y'all need somebody to tell you what to do because you don't have the discipline or the routine, the behavior, or the habits to do it on your own. And that will be the first thing I would tell somebody, that though I had some discipline, I was still navigating with a level of ignorance that I did not understand all of what it was going to take. And I don't know that you know what all of what it's going to take, but I could have had a better plan when I took off. So first thing I would tell people is you got to have a plan. Got to have a plan. Without a plan, if we go to the Bible, without a vision, the people perish. It says, write the vision, make it plain, put it on tablets so they might be able to run with it. Many of us ain't got nothing to run with other than our emotions. And when your emotions come down after the offense, you stuck here looking with the results of a decision that you made. And a lot of us start panicking because you realize, shoot, I don't know that I was expecting this. And my first foray in, about 180 days in, less than 6 months, I needed somebody to help me with my rent. So I just want you to understand. I'd have done these damages and these beat ups when trying to do this entrepreneur thing.
Yeah. And you know, when I tell people like, you got to write the vision, write your goals, stuff down. What do you think is the reason why most people fail when it comes to goal setting? You know, I had somebody tell me one time, "Oh, I got it all up in here. I already know." And I'm just like, hey, I'm 46. At my age, I know I can't just have it all up in here. I have to write it down. My vision board serves as a reminder, right? And like you said, that reverse engineering. Yeah, I put a yearly thing down, but I break it down by quarter to month to my weekly task items that's going to get me towards my goals.
Okay, so let's be honest. Okay, we you and I both talked about it. You know, you 46, I'm 47. Listen, I don't mind telling people I'm thankful to be at this age. Thank God I'm here. But let's be honest. Some of us have walked up the steps in our house, walked into another room on the same floor, going to get something, and can't remember why you got there. I know I came up here for something and can't remember. Then you walk yourself back downstairs or to the other room, only to get to the other room and remember what it was that you was trying to go do the first time, to get back upstairs again and go, what am I supposed to be up here? So first of all, stop playing. Your memory ain't that good. That's first. Now, I think the hardest reason why people don't want to slow down and think is because it's going to force them to see that what they endeavor to do is bigger than what they got in here. And typically when you actually have a vision, visions are God-given. And God gives you a vision that's actually bigger than who you are, so you know that you can't get it done without him and without him sending you the resources, which are people, to get it done. So what people want to be able to do is go, I can do this on my own. I can make this happen. I don't need your help. But you actually need some help, even if it's just modifying the goal, modifying the vision, so then you can actually be consistent and you can actually strategically navigate and move forward. And many people won't do that because they pride in the way, because what if I tell Coach Tressa and I give her my goals and my business plan and she says, that's not going to work? What am I going to do then? Well, I'm used to people telling me that's not going to work, and I'm used to people not getting what I'm doing. I don't want nobody to tell me, so I'm going to go out on my own. And what are you doing? You're going out in your pride. Your pride is blinding you. A fall and destruction is getting ready to happen. I promise you, I've done it. Many of us have done it. I've seen it when I've coached. The biggest thing you got to be able to do is write it down and let somebody else be able to look at it that you trust, that's going to refine it and then allow for you to move forward.
Yeah, that part, because a lot of times I've seen people where they all over the place. I was like, you do not need no more things on your plate. They trying to do 8 things, and I'm like, who was the one who came up with that quote where the focus go to energy flow?
I don't know who came up with it, but they told the truth. Listen, I don't know who said it, but it's definitely the truth. Here's one that I like to tell people with focus, and this is usually for the more people driven personalities. They hate to focus. And I said, my question to them is always this. And I would say this to anybody watching or listening right now. Do you want to be a flashlight or a laser in your business? Now, let me give you the difference. A flashlight illuminates. Lights go out in your house. You want to go get a flashlight so you can see. So you can actually, everywhere you turn it and you move it, you get a chance to see. But a laser actually is a concentration of light that in surgery, it can actually save somebody's life. It can cut through a steel beam. Now, what's the difference between the two? It's the concentration of the light because they're both light. Now, those who don't like to focus are walking around like flashlights and wondering why people don't trust them because you keep shining on something different. You're doing this in January. You're doing this in February. You're doing something else in June. You got this going on in December. And next year I'm going to do this. Like you all over the place. You got these lights and everything else. You in everybody conference. You're a flashlight. People want to get behind somebody who's laser focused because what that's going to prove is you're going to build a relationship that I can trust. I can believe it's going to be consistent. And when you show up, I want to show up with you because I like what I see.
See, listen, y'all getting a whole coaching session on this thing. Like, I mean, this is why you a coach. He said, I'm a certified extreme execution elite coach. Okay. So y'all already know you need somebody to help you on the plan to getting back on that straight and narrow. Y'all better book Aaron. Stop playing. And he a speaker. What kind of speaker would you call yourself? Motivation, transformation?
Man, I think it's evolving. So one of the things I'll say this, I will probably say I'm a hybrid between motivational and transformational. It's the way I preach. It's the way I teach. It's the way I coach. One of the things that when I finally told God yes to preaching, I said, I don't want to get people excited and they walk out the church and they don't have anything to do with. I said, I want to make sure that they can get excited because through your word, they see you, they hear you, and they feel you. And because of that awakening and awareness, then I want to equip them to be able to have something to do before they get to the parking lot. And so those are when people hear me on Get Over the Hump, when I've had a chance to speak at UAW4s and other organizations, is that it's going to be inspirational. It's going to be part of it because I need to level set that I see you, that I hear you, and you're valued. But now after we get past that, now let's actually have some tools so we can take next steps in the direction that we want to be able to go. So I think I'm a hybrid between it.
I like that. And so, and you're author. Is this your first time? Is this the first book?
No, it's book number 2.
Okay. Wow. Look, I can see now that's motivation for me to get my second book out because I've been procrastinating. No excuses. But anyway. The book. Good enough.
Yeah.
Well, let's see it. Let me see it.
Here we go.
Y'all, wait a minute. During the pre-call, y'all, I said, is that you? I said, why? It's giving me a movement. It's giving me like.
So this is
powerful.
Funny. What's funny is that question has been very consistent. So shout out to my brother, Adam Thomason. He and I worked very closely on this project because there was a version of the book that I wanted to drop going into the V-Ros event that we did back in October. And he was like, man, there's some sections of what you just sent me that I think you need to do a whole book with this. I said, bro, I don't know that I got the time for this because the event's coming up and we got to get stuff to the printer. We got to do some editing. And so he was like, man, I'm willing to walk alongside you. If you willing to work, we can do it together. Now, my brother has published multiple books. He's had publishing deals. He was like, I can give you some of these hacks that'll help you get there as a self-publishing author that I learned by having publishing deals. I said, if you don't leave me by myself, let's go get it done. So we got to work. And part of, as we get through that initial manuscript, he says, man, I feel like it's this theme that's in the book. And that's the title of the book called Good Enough. He said, man, I feel like you were wrestling with your emotions, your insecurities, acceptance, rejection, about feeling that you weren't good enough for people. So you tried to morph and to perform to be good enough for people. I said, that's it. So that's how the title, if you look at the book, the title, you'll see that the knot is striped out. So the title of the book is called Good Enough because it's a transformation and a journey from feeling like I was not good enough to ultimately being good enough. And on that journey of seeing and getting clarity on that every day. Now we get into the branding, and my brother's been huge with branding. He's done things with music companies. He's done stuff with artists that I could name. We're not going to name drop here, but the dude is, I'm blessed that he's my blood brother, same mama, same daddy. This ain't no black stuff that I'm making this stuff up. We slept in the same bedroom together. We got in trouble together. That's my man, $100,000. And so he said, man, I want to be able to create something that I want to go pray on, that if somebody saw the cover of this book in the airport, if they didn't know you, they would pick it up. I was like, all right. So he sends me this cover, and I was like, I like it. But I said, I felt like it's missing something, because in the book, I interweave my dad and I's relationship, who passed away last year, November the 9th. And so I talk about our relationship quite a bit in there. And I say, hey, how about we do this? How about you try to merge our faces and keep the kind of the same vibe? He was like, I don't know if that's going to work, but let me try this. So he takes this picture of me, drops it into his AI platform that he was navigating, and boom, now you get a morphine of this particular cover. So when people look at it, they say there's a level that feels very familiar of you, but we know that that's not like you. So people say, man, is that your dad? With an old picture of him? What is that all about? And so here's the idea. In the preface of the book, the preface is called The Unknown Man. And I said that, and why we went with this concept of the unknown man is because as you're morphing, shape-shifting, and performing in a way that's not authentic to your creation, you are actually unknown. And what happens is that many of us actually get praise, and we actually move along and advance in our lives by not being our most authentic self. And so because of that, people are familiar, but something is off. So I can tell you, if you look at the cover, those eyes and our eyebrows are mine. Part of that nose is mine. A little bit of those lips are mine, the way it was morphed into it, but it's still not me. And for the very first time, I'm introducing people to me. And by doing that, I believe we're starting a movement of people walking out of the shadows of shame into the light of freedom.
Powerful. First off, let me say my condolences to you. That date is definitely significant because, like I told you before, my significant other passed on November 8th.
Wow.
So you say November 9th.
Wow.
And when I hear just a little bit of you talking about that, I think about the people who walk around with imposter syndrome. I feel like you could talk more about it, but it had to take courage and just really listen to God's and being obedient to put this out here, because some people, let's just keep it real, don't want to share any past hurt, past failure, past guilt, shame. They don't want to show that side.
Yeah, it's coaches. I love how you said that, because what happens, especially from coming from Detroit. So, and I know if you LA, Chicago, Baltimore, any urban black spots from the 80s and 90s you grow up, one thing you learn very quickly: do not let them see you sweat. Do not let them see you have any level of weakness. Suck them tears up. That goes with girls and boys, because if they see any level of weakness, it allows for them to be able to figure out how to manipulate you, use you, or pick on you. And I struggled with being bullied too as a kid. So when you go through all those different things, it teaches you to guard yourself. It teaches you to numb your emotions. It teaches you not to feel what it is that you need to feel. So you keep the bad stuff out, but you also keep the good stuff out. And so I had gotten to a point in my life that I said, I'm no longer going to hide in these shadows. Because see, in the shadows is where the enemy gets an opportunity in isolation to beat you to death. And I'm going to say, for somebody who's watching this right now, you in the shadows right now, and you trying to handle it on your own, and you don't know whose voice is in your head. You can't determine if it's yours. You can't determine if it's God, and you can't determine if it's the enemy's. It's because you're hiding. And you're hiding in the shadows, and the shadows are only as real as you make them. And the moment you step into the light, the shadows disappear. So I want you to remember that. The shadows only are effective when you keep yourself away from the light. And so it was a very emotional experience. And that's why people, when they read the book, they said, Aaron, I'm up in this was a roller coaster of my emotions. Like, I was not prepared to read this book with my emotions. I've had multiple people tell me, Aaron, I was in full-blown tears by the end of the book. And that's because I prayed and I debated on certain things that I put in there. And I've been encouraging people, don't be what I used to be when I used to read books. You don't want to read the preface. You don't want to read the intro. You just want to get into the chapters. You don't want to read the conclusion. You just want to keep going. I am telling people to trust me. It's an easy read. If you read from the beginning all the way to the end, you will get it. And there's something that my father says to me the last time I saw him alive in the conclusion, that sets this whole book off. But you got to read it. You got to read it. You got to read it.
Wow. And I can only imagine it being emotional for you. What did you learn in this process about you that you didn't know before?
I think I talk about it in the intro a little bit. My parents got divorced when I was 15 and heartbroken. You know, my dad basically left my mom for another woman. You know, we a church family, you know, same mama, same daddy, same last names, you know, all the stuff that don't happen in the hood. And all of a sudden my world is shattered. And with my world being shattered, then I was mad. I was angry. Like I was angry at him for a long time. You know, and most of that resolved, you know, after I got out of college. But that piece right there solidified a spot in my heart that I'm not like him. Man, I ain't like this dude at all. So you carry that with you, that you're fighting against how much you're not like someone, as opposed to the revelation and leaning into, I'm more like you than I realize. And when I started having that revelation and that light bulb moment that we are more alike than we are different, now that gave me the ability to actually be able to heal and to be able to shed the weight and the baggage to be authentically who I needed to be and to be more effective in what I was called to be. But as long as I was in denial because I was offended, my pride, I was hurt, it was unhealed, then I'm missing spaces and I got more blind spots than I need to, because I am unwilling to see that the mirror that frustrates me is him. And we actually, if I figure it out and I learn from the light, the different little light bulb moments he's been showing me through his life, good, bad, or indifferent, I get a chance to leverage his experience and not have that not to be my own.
Yeah. And here's the thing. I feel like it's going to touch so many people not just from, you know, being accepted and really truly being your authentic self, but there are people who still hold on to grudges. Let's just say of their parents.
Yes, it is.
What do you tell somebody who say, and I mean, I'm talking about harboring on pain and regret for 30, 40 years. And then when they get older in life, let's say their parents pass away, because, you know, the Bible says honor their mother and their father. I would think somebody one time said, yeah, but my father wasn't there and he treated me like this and he did this and he left the family and stuff. And it's like, I know I've never experienced that, but I can only imagine, how do someone get over that and still try to, okay, I got to honor them too, as my days would be longer.
Yeah. See, here's what honor is not predicated upon who the person is. Honor is predicated upon the position they hold. And many times we want to honor or respect someone based on how they behave, how they navigate. And that's not what honor is connected to. This is their position. They hold a position that in that space determines and declares that you must honor it. Now, if you choose to in those spaces to reject it, then there will be consequences. You must honor the position. Honor is not about how they behave. Honor is about the position. And many of us have to understand that none of us have come here based on our own decision. I love my parents, but kind of some stuff I grew up, I might have chose two different parents if it was my choice. It wasn't my choice. It was two people made a decision that now I'm the fruit of the product of their decision. So there's a level of reverence and honor that you have to have for the position they hold. And when you move to, they could have been awful, they could have been great, they could have been trash. But when you honor that, you alleviate the weight. And Hebrews says, lay aside every weight and sin. And many times we talk about the sin and not the weight. The grief, the disrespect, that is weight that holds your heart hostage, that doesn't allow for you to be able to give what you need to give to others. And so that honor gives you the ability to actually forgive, to extend grace, to be merciful, to actually see your parents as human beings, to actually seek and to see some context of why they were making decisions they were making. And as you get older, it's like, I don't know that I would have made that same decision, or I may have made the same decision. So I say all that to say is the one thing I learned through this process as I was working on honor, probably about 5 years before my dad passed, is I didn't have anything that I regretted when he passed away. Nothing. There was no weight. There was nothing, because he and I had worked on our relationship that I was able to tell him things. He was able to tell me things while he was still alive. And I know people, I got people in my circle that I'm talking to now. Man, I can't stand my dad, can't stand my mom. Da-da-da. I said, listen to me. I need you to hear me. When they're gone, it's going to feel way different than what it feels like right now because it's final. The hope is gone that you can ever reconcile. The hope is gone to have another conversation because it's final. Deal with this now, so when they're gone, you don't have anything else that you wish you would have done. And the only way you get there is you honor their position. You then begin to see them as humans, and then we can then have a conversation.
Wow, that's powerful. Wow, I had to sit for a minute on that. That was powerful. I mean, I came to the whole Bible lesson on a Saturday. Man, I can definitely tell you are anointed for real. Yes. What advice would you give someone? Like, I know people don't feel like they're good enough, like to say in life in general, but what about those who don't feel good enough even in their career or their business? They just there for the paycheck, but deep down they feel like they keep getting passed up over promotions. They still struggling financially. They just want to do better and they want to go to the next level, but they don't feel good enough.
Yeah, boy, I tell you. And I was talking to my brother and one of my really good friends the other day. And through my career in corporate, they said, man, you get this thing in a way that everybody don't get it. Man, you need to write something on that. I'm like, look, I just dropped one book. Give me a second. Let me work this one first. But I will say this. The hardest thing that I know that I used to struggle with, and I talk about it, I think it's in chapter 10, it's either 10 or 11 in the book, is corporate America, if they do it correctly, the leader will create a vision to produce a culture that will get you emotionally bought into. If they do it correctly. Most of them do, because they sell you on, hey, we need you here. Here's what we do. Here's our benefits package. Here's salary. You like, I see myself there. There's a level of connection and buy-in, and then you get into it. You're like, oh, this is a great company. And oh my God, look at this. So they're pulling you in, they're roping you in nice because the system is doing what it's supposed to do. And so what happens when the system begins to pull you in and it connects to your heart, it allows for you to be disarmed and you lower your guard. So what happens now, you're in this vulnerable state in which now you're placing everything into the organization, everything into your boss, and you're no longer stewarding when the scriptures say we need to watch as well as pray. We need to try every spirit by the Spirit to see which is of God. You'll know a tree by the fruit that it bears. We ain't doing none of that stuff because the initial foray in says, this was a blessing of God. I trust these people blindly. Here we go. And what happens, because I've been a victim of it, is you get blindsided when they actually show you who they've been the whole time. And you've seen it, but you ignored it because you want to take the God piece and cover them and their lack of character, the things that you see in the organization, the things that you might have said, oh, I saw them do that to them, but I know they're not going to do it to me because I'm different. So now your arrogance and your naivete kicks in. And when you get blindsided, you start blaming everybody else when it ain't everybody else. It was you chose to ignore what God was already telling you what was up. So what I tell people, corporate isn't bad, because for a lot of us, y'all need to stay in corporate to be better financial stewards, to have better discipline, so then you will have money to seed your own business and vision, so you don't have to come out here on this struggle bus being an entrepreneur that everybody be trying to sell you got to struggle for. No, there's some people in entrepreneur, they ain't struggling. There's some people that's doing real good, scaling corporate, and they got a nice hustle on the side. Some people got the double hustle. There's a lot of different ways of doing it. It's not one size fits all. But what happens when we get offended because we decided to turn our brains off, turn our discernment off, now we frustrated because they didn't validate us. I think that's one. The second thing I would ask somebody who's frustrated, especially in a corporate space, is whose report are you going to believe? I know that's an old churchy statement, but whose report are you going to believe? Okay. Are you looking for them, and based on how you get this raise, to verify, to validate who God made you, or are you going to do what you're supposed to do regardless of what they say? And many times we are looking for people to validate us in a way in which God has already validated us in. But because they didn't validate us, God is irrelevant. Because my ex didn't validate me, I can't see myself that way. Because I'm putting all this time at the job, I can't see myself this way, but God says that you're fearfully and wonderfully made. you're created in my likeness and image. You can do more than what this is. And because we disarm ourselves to believe that this corporation is all we can do, we shut down our imagination and we box in God, and we get frustrated when that don't work out. When God says, I never was meaning to bless you in that box. I got everything for you, but do you trust me to give it to you?
Listen, that's why I be telling sometimes when people say, I got laid off, maybe that you look at it, sometimes it may be a blessing. Because God know you was stagnant. You've been on that job for 20 years and you one of them complainers at the water cooler, messing up for everybody's energy. New hires come in and you already tainting their mindset because you've been bitter. You've been bitter Betty or Debbie Downer. And then you get laid off and now you mad, not knowing that God was like, listen, I got to shift and pivot you in a new direction. People have been, have gotten blessed by those unexpected things. And you are a coach, you're a speaker, you have which we're going to talk about, your own community. And then you're involved in other communities, and then you're an author, then you preach, and then praise and worship. How do you balance all this?
So one of the things I learned very early, and I remember in my apartment, I must have been 24, 25, and I felt like it was too much, the singing, writing, the teaching, the preaching, the create. I felt like it was too much. I felt like it was overwhelming. I think about a scene in the movie, I think it's The Man of Steel. Superman, when he was a kid, started realizing all of his senses and all of his powers were coming in, and he was so overwhelmed. It was too much. I felt like it was too much. So I said, I'm going to make a decision. I didn't pray about it. I'm just going to make a decision on my own. I'm going to focus on one thing, and I'm going to be good, and then we'll figure it out. And I remember the next day I was praying, and God said, who taught you to do that? Who taught you to do that? He said, I gave you everything that you have. Let me show you how to use it. And so in that moment, I believe I started shifting from the idea and the concept of balance to harmony. And it's a difference. When you're balancing, you're going to put additional weight in one area that you're not going to put in the other. And if you keep the weight in one spot too long, it wears out, or we would burn out, and then it shifts into the other direction. So it never gets you that quote unquote balance. But if you understand music and you just simply go to choir music, you got your tenors, your sopranos, you got your altos, simple church harmonies. But each note is different, but when they're placed in together, it makes beautiful music. And so what we need to start finding is harmony and not balance. What do I find? So for those moments, I figured out, I said, oh, God, my gifting is my voice. How do you want me to use my voice? Now, my voice shows up in different ways. It's going to show up writing. It's going to show up speaking. It's going to show up coaching. It's going to show up singing. It's going to show up in different ways. So God, in this season, how do you want me to use my voice? And so because of that question and then yielding to it, I get an opportunity to be more, have a more harmonious space, as opposed to feeling like I'm schizophrenic and I'm all over the place. And that's what happens with a lot of us. They'd be like, well, you're doing this, 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 you're doing this. But if you listen to any music that I've written, if you read any of the first two books that I've dropped, if you listen to any of my coaching sessions, you get over the hump. The voice and the theme is the same. It's just how I choose to convey that is different. Therefore, we're in harmony. Yeah. And what was the first book title? The first book title was called Built for This, Why This Time is Different. I dropped that last year, March of 2023. Was a bestseller on Amazon. God was gracious. 30-day journal where there were quotes that I have been writing in my prayer time and in my devotion time over about 2 years. And God says, take those out, give it to a beta group. Let's see which ones they gravitate towards. Take 30 of them, put them in a book, break them down on what the quote actually means, and then give them reflective questions to kind of think through. So what I told people, I said, if you take 30 minutes for 30 days, you will begin to shift your mindset and be able to see you different and how this moment in your life is different. So like one of the quotes in the book is, your feelings are real, but the conclusions you make is a choice. And so I understand that a lot of times with people, they go, man, you don't understand my feelings, and such did this, and da-da-da-da. So then you're offended, you're blind, and now you're filling in the blanks. Your feelings are definitely real, but the conclusions you make are a choice. Now, let's own our choices and not be guided by our feelings, because our feelings are a bad teacher. There's another quote that's in there where it says, discipline is the address in which your feelings need to reside. If we go to working out, here's one thing you hear most people say, man, I ain't work out today because I ain't feel like it. Oh, okay. And I tell people, the moment you say, man, I know I'm supposed to be nice to her, but I ain't feel like it. The moment you say, I didn't feel like it, that's where discipline shows up. Go to the address in which your feelings need to reside, and you'll watch. I'll get up and go work out. I'll actually have temperance and not say what's on my mind. I'll actually do the thing that I need to do, though I don't feel like doing it, which then begins building clarity, confidence, trust as you begin to transform moving forward.
Okay, come on, Coach Aaron. Now your community, V-Ros, I think that's what you said, V-Ros community.
Yeah, that's good. That's close enough.
Say it again.
It's V-Ros.
V-Ros. Okay, V-Ros. Is this a recent community you just birthed?
Yeah, so you talk about convicted to grow. So I dropped my first community, if this is 24, maybe 22. And I called it Next Steps Required, because that's how I coach. Again, talked about it earlier. I want you to be feel, seen, heard, and valued based on how you come to me. But at some point, if we're going to transform, we got to take some next steps. Next steps in the directions of your goals that allows for you to build consistency, clarity, and confidence. To now that turns into transformation. So I was like, let's call the first community Next Steps Required. Came out the gate, it's pretty good. People's lives started happening. Ended up turning into a one-on-one kind of weekly group. With shout out to Miss Sandra Jones, who's been rocking with me from day one. And guy says, all right, we need to shift. He's like, you have now built a good community online. Get over the hump on Wednesdays and Fridays. Now let's talk about, what are you trying to push people to do? What are you trying to get them to see? What are you trying to make them to happen? And so V-Ros is a connection or a continuation of what started with Next Steps Required. And so why we talk about V-Ros? V-Ros is an ancient Greek word that directly translates to hero. And I believe that every person, if they see themselves through the eyes and the lens of God, and they believe that what he told Jeremiah, that I knew you before the foundation of this world, that your parents were an inheritance of my gift to them. I gave them you. You were already validated for you got here. Then how did we get off of the hero's journey? Heroes are determined to leave whatever they find better than which they found it. And so I said, let's bring together a group of people who are determined that they want to leave the world better than they found it, that they want to be, as they talk about in the scriptures, to turn the world upside down, that are determined to live and leave a dream. And so that was the genesis of the event that took place in October. And we've been rocking ever since from that energy that's moved forward. Soon we're going to open it up to allow for more people with the book dropping, to allow for more people to come in. We got some other things that we want to be able to do, is to allow for wherever you show up, is to understand that's not where you're supposed to stay. And we're going to walk with you. We're going to walk beside you. So you don't have to do it alone, to know that you can be everything in which God created you to be.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, how can someone get into the community? It seems like you already got that strategy. Like if somebody works with you one-on-one, are they automatically in the community?
It's a great question. So currently right now, that is some of the pieces that we're doing. And I will say, as the community opens up, that if you need additional one-on-one coaching, as there's certain number of clients that I'll have from a one-on-one perspective, the community does have privileges that it will be discounted. So that's 100%. I want to take care of the people who believe that being part of the community, not just what they can get out of it, but what they can give, is a beautiful opportunity. And so the V-Ros community has been one that when we showed up at the event, they got a chance to get a real beat up, unmixed version copy of the book, gave feedback that definitely helped modify it for what dropped November the 21st. And they have had this opportunity where we are walking through it, which is going to lead to some other things that are going to happen next year. Like it's going to be a guided journal and devotional that's going to be a part of that. We are working on some things right now to create music to be able to be connected with it. There's going to be a children's book that's going to be birthed out of this as well. So that community has been invaluable to me, because they've allowed for me to be able to see more of what God gave me, because I've been so close to it, that they've been allowed for it to be able to be expanded upon the possibilities, and for me to properly steward, to be able to bless the people.
I like that. what I admire with your vision is that you definitely move by the Holy Spirit. And what I mean by that is you seek counsel first. Because a lot of times, and I heard recently a while back, Pastor Darius Daniel said, every good door ain't a God door.
Yes, he did. Yes, he did. And he's so
you hear that sermon?
Now, that's one of my favorite people right there. Now, listen, that man, a church kid with practicality, understanding the marketplace. How do we show up and be everything that God told us to be? Yes, Lord. He tells the truth.
The fact that you're being very strategic on not, because here's some people move by numbers. I gotta have all these, they move by the followers. They want that instant gratification, right? Sometimes the delayed gratification is for your development. And the fact that you are moving with saying, okay, I gotta trust and be obedient with this process, because the right people, I need to make sure I'm working with the right people and not just connecting just because.
Yeah, we got to think about it like this, right? You can listen. She already put on the screen. You can go follow me at Ask Aaron Victor. I'm there. You can go look at my followers. I got less than 2,000 followers. Now, watch this. I got less than 2,000 followers. Self-published author, debuted 2 books that hit #1 in their category. I make this point, and God showed us this with Gideon, is that Gideon was getting ready to go fight, and he was like, "Yo, I don't have enough people." And God said, "No, you." He said, "Actually, you got too many people." And he broke Gideon down to 300 people to go fight, and they won every fight. What am I trying to get us to understand? As I'm trying to get you to understand is you don't need to have what everybody else needs to win. What God has gifted you to do, you got everything that you need right now. And many of us are doing too much of this comparison, which allows, in that comparison, you then bring a shadow over what God has done for you, and you begin to miss the gifting that you are, and you're waiting for this moment when the moment was already there. You have enough right now to go dominate what you're supposed to dominate.
Come on, that's a mic drop right there. No, it's been a pleasure just having you here, and I know you'll definitely be back. And anything that I can do to help support, I'm definitely going to drop this in our newsletter for our community. I'm going to definitely promote it, and they can go purchase it now. What's the best way to purchase it?
It's on Amazon right now. This cover, this face, this is what it is. And we have a group, the V-Ros community. We started it, and then it started kind of spilling out onto social media. Is this campaign that we're calling We Got This. So we have a goal to feed the 5,000 with this book, to be able to go and to allow for them to get out of the shadows of shame, to walk into the light of freedom, so they can see God's divine intent from them for the very beginning. So I would just tell people, how can you support? Go get it right now. I would tell people it's priced to move, not because it's not valuable, because I want this to be in other people's hands. Christmas is coming. Give it as gifts. Ladies, you got men in your life. I'm going to give them permission to actually navigate their emotions, even for a little bit. You want to know what's inside the head of a man? You need to read it, so then you can know how to support and love him different. You got people around you that need to stop all this complaining because they think they're the only one. You give it to them, because all of a sudden I'm going to let them know you ain't the only one that's navigating as they go through this book. So I would tell you, we've been saying this. You need to minimally buy 5. Aaron, why 5? 5 is the number of grace. So be gracious to the people around them and get them a gift. Second, you need one for you. You need one for 2 people that's close to you. And you need to have 2 ready to give to random strangers.
Listen, y'all, please. And first of all, that's how you come on and promote yourself. I'm telling you, listen, it made me like, dang, who can I give it away? Like, I'm telling you, I'm sold. The way you just said that. Oh my gosh. Listen, y'all. Oh my gosh. Please go purchase his book. Please. I'm telling you guys, you would not be disappointed. And I'm so excited where God is about to take you. 2025. Expect more. We might get a 3rd book next year. Look, you just never know. But until then, we want to make this goal happen for him. And so listen, y'all, make sure y'all follow him on every social media platform, especially the IG. I know he goes live Wednesdays and Fridays. And not only that, when you go follow him, don't just follow him. I need you to go and maybe comment on one of his reels or posts and say Convicted to Grow. So we know you came over from the podcast, okay? Hashtag Convicted to Grow. Now, if you would like to work with Aaron one-on-one, maybe you're feeling all over the place. Maybe you feel like you need somebody to really hold you accountable to your goals and really, truly live the abundance life that you've been called to do. You can book a one-on-one with him. He got programs. If you would like to be a part of what he's going on with his community, reach out to him. If you are an organization, nonprofit, corporate, education, and you would love to hear an amazing, dope, motivational / transformational speaker, you can book him as well. Now, I'm going to tell y'all again, listen, catch him now while we got the 2024 price. Okay? Make sure y'all catch him now. Now, my last question that I ask every single guest.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
In 90 seconds or less, tell me, when you think of the word convicted to grow, as it relates to whatever you're feeling right now in life, business, career, overall, whatever, what does that mean to you?
Yeah, I love that. So convicted to grow really resonates with me from this particular angle, is that conviction is not condemnation. And many times we want to connect the two, that what we're convicted to change, convicting to grow, creates a condemnation or an indictment on something else. No, that actually just means there's more for you to do. That he can do exceedingly abundantly above all that we can ask, think, or imagine, according to the power that worketh within you. So who told you that where you are today is the only space you're supposed to be? Who told you that you actually can't be anything more than what you're experiencing? Who told you that your life was supposed to be in this box right here? And you know it because you've been having this whisper in your spirit. You've been having these tears flow at night that everybody else doesn't understand. And because you know that this is happening, there is a conviction to grow. Now we shut the voice of the enemy. We shut the power of the shame down by understanding that your conviction for more doesn't mean that you were less. That's why I said every time on Get Over the Hump, just because you started out on this journey to get better, it doesn't mean that you weren't already good. So your conviction to grow is actually you answering the call that only you can hear to move forward, to do the thing that's in front of you.
That's about to be my infomercial. I'm about to put that in there every new episode. I'm gonna take this clip and drop it in every new episode in the middle. That's the mic drop. Nikki's think. Listen, y'all. That's powerful, Aaron. Listen, I need you to go ahead and preach a sermon on convicted to grow. Come on.
Fool around, get me started now. Fool around, get me started.
Listen. Oh my God. Because every person that answers that question, everybody has a different perspective. So I love it. I love that I get different perspectives and different answers. And so thank you once again. Anything else you would like to leave for the people before we head out?
No, I just really, first of all, thank you for having me on. I really, really appreciate it. This is so super fun. Time has flown since we've been here. Those of y'all been checking, don't be selfish about this. Give this to more people. Click and subscribe to make sure that y'all rocking with Convicted to Grow. And just simply know this. You are more than enough because of where you are now. More than enough. But you know that there's more for you to do. Let's get started. Let's take one step. Be consistent and watch your life transform.
Yes, listen, I ain't got nothing else to say, but as you already know, guys, as I leave out, life is a journey. Life is priceless, and to some, life is short. But while you're here on God's green earth, you recognize who you are, recognize whose you are. I need you to wake up every morning and tell yourself you got what it takes to win. And just to reciprocate what he just said, you are more than enough. So I need you to tap into your potential, tap into your greatness, because as we embark in this next season, guess what? We will thrive in 2025. So with that being said, I love you guys. And until next time, stay tuned.